This week's episode is brought to you by, well, you. Patreon. We have a campaign.
You, Brian Wade.
Do we want to do this? Do we want to say some names of people?
Oh, I think that might be an idea at some point. Yeah, let's do it. New traditions are born.
So if you want to be like a Brian Wade to enter that pantheon, it is just Duckfeed.tv/chipjar. There's a link to our Patreon campaign. Just a couple dollars a month will get you some crazy, cool access, things we are really proud of. And yeah.
We'd really appreciate it.
Some of our landings were desperate adventures. We are now prepared to meet the inevitable counterattacks with power and with confidence.
Once people became aware of their own frailty, they seized anybody they found undesirable, cursed or no, and impounded them here. Whoever posed even the slightest threat was removed, all so that they could sleep better at night. Some people would rather keep dreadful things out of sight, out of mind. So very typical of meek minds, don't you think?
My name is Gary Butterfield.
My name is Kole Ross.
And I am Phil Kollar.
And you're listening to Bonfireside Chat. It is a cursed favorite.
Yes, and this week we are talking about the Lost Bastille and Belfry Luna. All of that inclusive. I know the theory gets a little murky. But as you heard, we're joined by Phil Kollar of Polygon.com. Thank you so much, Phil.
Thank you for inviting me. I appreciate it.
Yeah. So you wrote the review for Dark Souls 2 that went up on Polygon. It was a great review.
Thank you. Thanks so much.
Yeah. What was the what was the process like on playing that?
Playing Souls games for review is I mean, it's like simultaneously the most exciting and most stressful time of, whenever those games come out, whatever year those games come out in for me. Because I've reviewed Demon Souls, Dark Souls, and Dark Souls 2 now. Demon Souls and Dark Souls I reviewed at Game Informer, where I was at before Polygon. And it's just such a, even when we get, so like in the case of Dark Souls 2, we probably got it a good 3 weeks in advance of when the review had to be finished, which is, far earlier than a lot of games come in. So that's certainly appreciated. They didn't wait until the last second to send it out or anything. But it's such a stressful, you're playing through these really difficult games. You have a very limited pool of people who you can talk to about it. That is other reviewers. And, you don't have the, if I get stuck on a boss, or if I'm, really trapped and don't know where to go in the game next, there's not this huge pool of people on the internet to go to and figure out, even just ask for hints, even just to be like, can you just, give me a shove in the right direction? So it's very interesting. It's a very different experience from most reviews. Because talking to other people is such a major part of the Souls experience for me. Reviewing a Souls game is one of those few games where I'll make an exception, and usually I don't really talk to other reviewers or people who are reviewing the same game as me. I don't really talk to them much while I'm reviewing it. But in the case of Souls games, I end up usually talking to reviewers quite a bit, just because that's part of the joy of these games for me. It's figuring stuff out and sharing it with people, and then hearing what they figured out and being like, "What? You're kidding? There's an Estus shard in the starting town. I had no clue." And going back to get that. So yeah, it's a really interesting process playing those games for review.
Yeah, you have your own private playground, like on the dark web.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and that's the other thing. There's not really on the plus side, there's not really a lot in terms of invasions when I'm playing it for review, but also there's not really much in terms of getting help from people either. So it's kind of a give and take, I guess. If
you dropped a summon sign, would somebody pick you up, or was it really just kind of that's not even a concern?
So technically, I think while we were playing, or at least for part of the review process, servers were up. But there's so few people playing, and the restrictions in terms of who gets summoned and when in Dark Souls are so kind of hard to keep track of that I think it would have been hard to make that happen without like working with somebody, like having somebody on the phone and like working through like, okay, I'm going to drop my sign here right now. Like, I don't think just randomly it would have happened. I did run into, notes from people. Mm-hmm. Those were certainly showing up while we were playing for a review, but I didn't really do much in the way of summoning, just a little bit.
Yeah, it'd be kind of fun. It'd almost be like if you were to summon people or get summoned, you'd have a decent chance of knowing the person. Not that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
you all know
almost
each
sounds
other,
like
right?
like a prejudiced version of people who review games. Like, you guys all know each other, right? But if it's a much smaller pool, there's a good chance.
Yeah.
But in this case, like I said, it was because this is something where I seek out talking to people who are reviewing it. We actually got like an email thread going of probably. It must have been around 25 people who were reviewing it. So, it would have been a good chance, I think, that, like, I don't know how many people they sent the game out to for review. I'm sure a lot more than that. But I think there was a good chance that if anybody was summoned in or if someone invaded me, it's like, this person's probably on that email thread.
And everybody's just as stressed as you are.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
What was the biggest stress point where that made an impact? Like, what was the biggest roadblock that you wish that you had, either more summonable help or like access to a wiki?
Oh God, this is not our topic for today, but I'll mention it. Earthen Peak. Can I go into spoil? Like, I don't know if you guys want me to spoil something for something you guys haven't talked about yet.
It's fine. Our spoiler policy is pretty fast and loose.
Okay. The boss of Earthen Peak is I guess it's the second boss technically. Mm-hmm. She is in a giant pool of poison. And all of the people reviewing it for, there's probably a good 2 or 3 days where we were discussing this and nobody could figure out how you were supposed to withstand all of that poison. And there were a handful of people on the review team who are on this, not the team, the review thread, the review email thread who just muscled their way through. They just brute forced and beat that boss without getting rid of the poison.
Holy crap.
But the whole time I was like, I couldn't I couldn't make that work. I tried equipping different pieces of armor that gave me higher poison resist and just nothing worked. And I was just like, there has to be a way to get rid of this poison. So finally, I don't even remember who on the thread figured it out. It sure wasn't me. But finally somebody was like, hold on, you can burn this windmill and that gets rid of the poison. It was such a huge relief because it was definitely, that was the biggest, like, I was just up against that for at least a day.
Yeah, it's a tough thing. Like I got through it without the poison thing the first time as well, and then felt like boy, I did this the dumb way, and just through just eating life gems. Like I got through my last attempt with no life gems left.
That was essentially what I was trying, and I probably did like 4 or 5 runs of that, and the way that my character was built, it just wasn't going to work for me. So I think that's how the people who brute force their way through did it as well, though. So it's certainly that's a possibility. You can do that.
They
it's
hide
maybe
that
not
summon
the
sign
best.
under the poison too.
Yeah, I know. They've got the NPC summon sign there. And then once it got the worst part was just like once I got rid of the poison, it was like that boss is so easy. It was just such a it was just one shot, no big problems, and I felt even worse because I was like I've been stuck on this for so long, and it was such an easy boss now.
In a weird way, it's like Mega Man X, where if you do the stages in a certain order, the boss arenas change, the level geometry gets altered. Like, yeah. Well, let's jump in and talk about Lost Bastille. But just hearing about the review process, because we were on a time crunch to get this done as well, and I can imagine, having my job right on it. Yeah. Cool. Yeah. So previously, last time we swashbuckled our way through some mateys in No Man's Wharf. I'll stop that now. No, I won't. Next one has it too. Stowing away on the damned ship to be whisked away to a dark and foreboding fortress. So yeah, we did No Man's Wharf, and now we're here in the Lost Bastille. Which, guys, it might not be the undead asylum, but it is an undead asylum.
Certainly.
It is an asylum for undead.
Yes.
Some blackbirds are black. Yeah, and this is where King Vendrick, stuck people who had the curse because he was scared shitless. And one of the things I really love about Dark Souls 2 is this idea of different kingdoms reacting different ways to the curse, and that's one of the coolest things here is like he's terrified and he just decides to lock them away. And it reminds me of it always happens in zombie fiction where like you don't actually try to find a way to permanently eliminate. I know you can't kill the dark sign, but they could tie rocks to him and put him in Hades or something. You don't try to permanently get rid of them because maybe they're curable. These are people are your family and your friends and everything. They're just sick.
Yeah.
So they're quarantined.
Yeah, you just put them in a barn.
Exactly.
Yeah. No. So like I always in my initial playthrough, because you have to take a ship to get here, and because it really is kind of on its own, like Sinner's Rise is it. This is kind of like one of the first terminuses of a spoke that we've seen off of the main wheel. I thought this was an island, but the map with the bonfires and stuff actually says that this is just further up the coast too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it's not like an Alcatraz kind of situation.
Yeah, that would make a kind of sense though.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's a little bit strange.
Yeah.
Both ways you get here are not through kind of landlocked means.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, but as we've said, space is kind of spacey-wacy here. But yeah, the sense is really foreboding. It's kind of like Latria and Demons, a little bit. Like aside from No Man's Wharf, which plays on darkness specifically, I think this is one of the bleakest areas in the game.
I don't know. I thought it looked a little romantic.
Oh yeah,
like the moonlight and everything. Yeah, like I think this is like where you take
a weird idea of romance.
Yeah, well, it's so pretty. the moon and just the kind of that perpetual post twilight.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. I don't know. I mean, other than Darkman coming up and shooting fire at you, it's very much a romantic place.
Darkman. I'm afraid I don't get the reference.
Alec Baldwin's Darkman.
Oh.
That's what the guys look like. The jailers in this.
Okay.
With their bandaged face.
The mummies? I call them mummies.
Mummies. Yeah. Well, there's multiple mummies because there's the big mummies and little mummies.
That's true. Yeah. You're
Mummies
right.
es grande. Mummies es bonito. The big guys look like Darkman to me.
Yeah, I'll be damned. It does look like Darkman.
But I'm old, so that's probably why.
I had no idea that Alec Baldwin played a superhero. I can only assume
in a Sam Raimi movie.
Huh?
Isn't that weird?
Bizarre. Yeah. I know. I guess I just Alec Baldwin has become so much of a cartoon of himself now that like it's really hard for me not to like just see him either as the character from Glengarry Glen Ross or what's his name from 30 Rock.
Every terrible thing he does in real life is based on something from Darkman. Like he's actually just stuck.
He's in a loop.
He's in a loop. He's practicing for Darkman too.
Yeah, no, he inhabited the role too much. He was like Heath Ledger.
Yep.
Yeah. Ugh. But yeah. So something we did like a while back, that makes sense to bring back when it's applicable is kind of the thesis statement for every area, and I think this is so appropriate. But like, if there was a thesis for this, it would be from all sides, because there are multiple ways to get through. I'd say this is kind of the most Dark Souls 1 area in the game in terms of like the way that it connects and kind of the convolution of the flow of play. And even more so than that, like all of the combat in here, you're almost never going to be one-on-one. In fact, down to the bosses, it's all about crowd control, right?
Yeah. How Phil? How did you get here? Like, which way did you take to get to the Bastille?
So I definitely initially got here I guess the quote unquote correct way, through No Man's Wharf and on the boat. And then because I had not managed to beat the pursuer yet. That was definitely a boss that took me a few tries and definitely had to leave and go do other stuff and come back leveled up. But then when I got here, actually, pretty much immediately, I got to Las Bastille, and that was actually when I went back and warped over to where the pursuer was and went back to going against him. So it was basically I found both the entrances almost at the same time.
I'll go here, see if it takes me to someplace new.
Yeah, no, I was like, well, I'll keep going along this path now. And then it just led me right back there, and I was like, oh,
This place again.
Yeah.
I guess I need to keep going in here.
Dark Souls really wants me to beat this Bastille.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that it's weird that we're calling it the normal way through No Man's Wharf, because you literally have to go through two other zones to get that. I think I'm calling it normal because it's a boat and not a bird. And this is the less far-fetched way to get to.
Yeah, and it also just seems like it seems to me like it's the way in terms of leveling that the game wants you to go. Like it seems like you're supposed to give up on, and maybe I'm just reading into this based off my experiences, but it seems like when you get to Pursuer that you're supposed to not be able to beat him yet, give up and go in that opposite path and eventually get here. And then going back to beat the Pursuer and finding that alternate route into Lost Bastille, it almost seems more like a shortcut, right? Like it seems like you're cutting off parts of the zone and making it easier for you to make your way through.
It definitely puts you closer to the Ruin Sentinels. I think the No Man's Wharf way makes a little bit more sense too in terms of boss progression, honestly, because I couldn't see going from Pursuer to Ruin Sentinels, and even managing to survive, honestly, because most people cite that as the hardest in the game. I think putting that buffer of, the Dragon Rider and Flexile Sentry, both of which are a little bit more vanilla than that, makes a little bit more sense from a progression standpoint.
Absolutely. And in fact, one of the most common things I saw from people, one of the most common questions I saw popping up right after the game came out was a lot of people who did manage to beat Pursuer, go directly here, get to Ruin Sentinels, and we're just like, what do you do? I can't do it. And didn't even realize that, like, didn't even find the whole path to that that eventually leads to No Man's Wharf.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think you're absolutely right.
Yeah, so that's the path we're going to take. So it's going to get a little bit confusing. Like when we get to a place, we'll say, "Oh, and if you came from this other side, we'll address that." But this is, one of the most non-linear areas in the game, in a game that kind of takes a pretty linear approach once you get on those spokes. So yeah.
When you said it was the area most like Dark Souls 1 and all of the kind of pathing and everything, it almost seems to go further than that. Yeah. It's hard for me to think of a Dark Souls 1 area that is quite this, looping back on itself with quite this many entrances.
Yeah.
To it, it's very, very much that. But also, like, coming down to it, like, if I had to choose between arriving somewhere in the arms of a bird, like pretending to be an egg, or like in a skeleton boat, like, I'm going to take that boat.
Yeah.
And now you get to see that sweet cutscene, the boat pulls up, and then you're just left. And if you left the pyromancy flame like I did, you're done with that. And I like the way that it comes up. I also think, obviously that's the way, kind of lore-wise and thematically, that undead are brought here. And when you go that way, you're brought into the elevators and the holding cells, as opposed to just kind of non sequitur towers.
Yeah.
That are more like solitary confinement, I imagine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the connection of the eagle to this area, the eagle and Pursuer, blah blah blah. If he is going after people with a curse, like, maybe this is his way of getting people there. I don't know who he's serving, but it's tenuous, and I haven't been able to think it through to a satisfying conclusion. Why, what link the Pursuer has to this area.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. But but yeah, you arrive and you go up this long ass elevator to get into this holding cell area, and there's not much action for a little while. Like, most of it is atmosphere up to this point.
Yeah, you see you come out of the elevator, and you're in that room full of jail cells, and you head up that kind of like just super long staircase, just flanked by cells, and coming out, it's a huge moment.
I remember being hugely on edge here because I had just gone through No Man's Wharf, which I had a lot of trouble getting through that area, just as I was learning it, and dealing with an area that was so dark for the first time and everything. And then I beat the Flexile Sentry, and I had all of these souls. And I was just like, there needs to be a bonfire right now. So that whole time, like, the atmosphere there worked incredibly well for me to build up this tension of just like, I cannot deal with losing these souls. I need to get a bonfire. And I was terrified that the game was going to throw an enemy at me before there was a bonfire, and that it was going to be some enemy I'd never seen before, and I was just going to screw it up and lose everything.
In a way, it's really generous that they didn't do that.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's. I'm thankful, but it really helped build that atmosphere of the area for me, just the sense of dread in that area.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting too, because that's like something I imagine kind of brought with you from Dark Souls 1, because Dark Souls 2 is in general very generous with that. Like, not only is there a bonfire almost right away, but there are 2 bonfires really, really close as soon as you leave here. Like, the game is very generous with bonfires in almost every case. And I had a very similar experience, just because I was expecting, like, and also this area kind of recalled New Londo to me a little bit, just because it was at night and there was, cliffs, and was just thinking, oh, like, I'm probably going to run into an area where there is not a bonfire, or where it's very well hidden.
Yeah.
And that just never happened. I don't necessarily think it's a problem with the game, but I had that experience because of my familiarity with Dark Souls 1.
Yeah. Seeing this kind of like dark area, and if you read it as foreboding instead of romantic, like now knowing how much they compromised the visuals for the final release, I can't help but wonder what this would look like with the old lighting engine. And that's going to be a theme that pops up, every once in a while as soon as things get real dark. Like with the old lighting engine, with the bonfire, hidden off in that cell, really have popped, right?
Mm.
Like that would be really cool. I wonder if that's something they're going to be able to patch in.
Yeah, or modders.
Yeah. Did you see that video of the guy, the guy, I guess when I say patch in mods, the guy who said, oh, let's simulate this. And so he turned the brightness all the way down, bumped the contrast, and then put a bunch of orange cellophane over the screen.
Yeah. 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 There is a real mod. There is a real darkness mod that the guy did, and it's all right. Like, it obviously does not look like the promotional footage.
Yeah.
But it does mean a torch is necessary just about everywhere.
Yeah.
So.
I don't know. Just curious, because that really would have changed the flow of play. But you get out into an area that's decidedly not dark. You have this awesome view over the ocean, and you're up in these ramparts, and you're going to spend most of this area on top of ramparts, wishing you could play the game Rampart. But there's a Hades Knight right there, and this is less advantageous footing to fight him on than back in the forest.
But he's not surrounded by bad guys.
True.
As well. Like that one, if you accidentally aggro him, you're kind of doomed. Mm-hmm. This one, at least, it's a duel.
Yeah, true. And he's got the spear. So I really like these guys. Like they make me fight, cautiously, more so than I otherwise would. So.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But yeah, you kind of you drop down into this courtyard where you meet Darkman and his friend Dark Dog.
Yeah.
That's what I really like that part too. Just from an approach perspective of, like, one of the joys of the Souls games in general for me is mastering the levels, right? It's learning how everything works and then figuring out the perfect way through it. And that's one of those areas that you can really show off your mastery if you've really learned that area, like dropping down from that ledge and just doing like a falling stab onto that guy and then just immediately taking those dogs out, and like you can look real cool in that. Or as is much more likely your first few times through, it can look incredibly sloppy and you can probably die a few times.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of dogs there and you can get overwhelmed
so many
between
dogs.
the dogs and that guy.
Well, dogs go to jail too. Like, all dogs go to heaven. Some dogs go to prison. Mm-hmm. So no dogs go to hell. That's how it works.
All that I'm picturing is Air Bud, like prison ball.
Or like thrown out for violations.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, Air Bud got fined.
Yeah, Air Bud, the penalty box.
Yeah. Air Bud 3.
You know they made a bunch of those where you did different sports, right?
No.
Including I think, skateboarding, actually.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Including the new one that they're working on is Air Bud as a professional Dark Souls speedrunner.
That would be awesome.
That's how it ties back in.
Dark Souls. I want it. The one of these undead jailer guys that you run into here was one of my first instances of a very useful soapstone message because which I love calling them that even though there are no more soapstones. But the where it said try beating to a pulp but blocking, which is pretty much what you need to do. Like they're super slow, just keep your shield up and hit them. And they're pretty manageable. Like they have a couple of really surprising attacks and they can dead angle you decently if you're trying to fish around in the back. And you can't backstab them for some reason, which is frustrating.
Yeah.
So it looks like you can, but
is that a size class thing, or?
I think so, but they look like they're just kind of right on the edge.
Yeah.
They're just a little bit bigger than you.
Love their weapon. Is that wieldable? I didn't pull that up in my research.
No.
Kind of that polearm scythe kind of thing.
The only useful thing they drop is a pyromancy, which is kind of interesting anyway, because that's it's rare for enemies to drop spells. Mm-hmm. Reminds me of that, like in Final Fantasy IV when you get those summons. Like Imp, and it was just very strange and not that useful. Mm-hmm. He drops a not great pyromancy.
Yeah, and they are pyromancers. It's incredibly rare in my experience to get them to fire that, honestly. Mm-hmm. But they do it if you're teasing them around. The nice thing is because they are so slow and the dogs are so fast, you can kind of kite around and separate them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
but
for sure.
But again, crowd control management. Mm-hmm. And you're going to find areas with lots more enemies, relatively short order. There's a destructible wall over to one side that kind of leads to a dead end at this point. If we're playing this straight and we don't already have the antiquated key, it's just kind of a room with some swordsmen in it.
Mm-hmm. Which is your introduction to that enemy. If you're taking this way, which is useful because you're gonna grow to dread those and recognize that like clinking mechanical sound. I thought for all the world that they were robots.
Oh yeah,
or like automata. Yeah.
You thought they were going real steampunk with this?
Yeah, it seemed like Dark Souls really lost it. My copy of Dark Souls came with a gear glued to the front of it, so
See?
I just assumed. But
yeah, it's the soap cog. Yeah. but these guys, I like the swordsmen actually. So their kind of lore thing is they were some of I want to say Vendrick's best soldiers in the war against the giants. Mm-hmm. And they kind of hit you. It's one of the only enemies you've seen so far that one hand's a two-handed sword, and they're really quick. It sounds like you had a lot of trouble with them, Gary. Yeah.
I mean, not so much. I actually am one of those weirdos that came the other way.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't come this way for a long time. I did Pursuer and then Ruined Sentinels, and came through that way. But so my first introduction to them was actually a lot harsher. But if you're going the normal way, it would be useful because they're ramping them up.
Yeah.
Like you fight 2 of them and then you fight all of them. So it goes from 2 to 20 and no points in between.
Well, the thing that makes them sons of bitches is the fact that they're almost always hiding around corners.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like there's always going to be more of them in an area than you can initially see.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Talking about it like, I came this way, I came that way, what it's bringing up actually is a little bit of like Blighttown.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and I know that Blighttown is a special case because you had to have the master key to do that, and it is definitely seen as the easy way as your means of egress. But that's a little bit of how it feels because there is that divide of like I came this way first or that way first.
Yeah.
But heading out the other way, you get into an area that kind of reminds me a little bit of another Dark Souls 1 area. This long hallway full of dogs that is kind of like the lower undead burg a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, the run up to the Capra demon.
Yep.
Yeah. And one of my favorite moments in the game, anytime it gets into the destructible the destructible terrain, it's real neat. You have that jailer that kicks the barrel down.
If you're lucky, if he doesn't just set it on fire, which he does all the time, and you have to go back to a bonfire to respawn it.
Oh yeah.
Which, if you're coming from the other way, you can't get back to that bonfire. You have to homeward bone back. So that took me a bunch of tries. I realized the trick was to pull him. Like you have to actually get him away from the barrel. I don't care what you do, just leave that barrel alone so I can use it, and I can kick it down.
Yeah,
interesting. I didn't realize that.
Did you run into that, Phil?
I didn't find that that area that opens up for quite a while.
Mm-hmm. Mm. Yeah.
I don't remember exactly the approach or how it was that I finally stumbled across it, but it took longer than it should have. Let's say.
Well, it gives you 2 ways to get in because there's a door that opens with the Bastille key right there. If you remember, like, there's a locked door here, and you just come back later thinking I probably in one of the 10 keys that I picked up that I can't read the description of, I'll probably be able to open this up. So yeah, and there's not much you can do in there right now. It's an interesting NPC insofar as he's like a mirror of the what is it, the giant blacksmith. Yeah,
it's actually like pretty. If you get in at this point, it's useful not so much because of what the NPC can do for you, but because of all the treasures in his room.
True.
Like he's got a bunch of large Titanite and regular Titanite. In there, and you're hungry for that stuff. And you've got to hear, I didn't figure this out until literally like 3 days ago, how to get him to get off the chest. Which is, and he gives you a really blatant hint. Loves fire.
Yeah.
But if you do that, you get a pretty decent weapon and a twinkling Titanite, which I think this is the first one you have access to in the game.
Yeah.
I think that's correct, probably.
Yeah.
Oh.
Even up to this point, is there anything you can upgrade with a twinkling Titanite?
They like depending on which way you go. Sure.
I suppose, yeah.
Yeah.
When I'm trying to think, when do you get the? I guess if you fight Pursuer, isn't that where you get the Drangleic set?
Yeah.
And the Drangleic sword is definitely Twinkling Titanite.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there's that.
Yeah.
There's that at least, because I used that sword for a long time my first playthrough, so that's why I remember.
Okay. Yeah. But it's nice to have anyway. Like when you're like, you don't get discouraged when you go and try and upgrade your weapon. I always get like a little bummed out when I don't know that a weapon requires a special kind of Titanite.
Yeah.
And yeah, especially when you get well, I guess with boss soul items, you're going to need the petrified dragon bone. But
I haven't done any like in the as much as I've played the game, I haven't used any boss soul items. So I always end every game with like 12 petrified dragon bones and nothing to do with them. So I give those to a special playthrough or something like that. If I ever run into anybody, I should gift them.
Yeah. I'm in a weird spot because I would like to switch over to the PC version for my for my playthrough for the show. However, I like my character on there so much that I have right now, and I don't know if I'm going to be able to get the old whip again as easily as I got it.
It's do you want to know a pro tip for getting the old whip?
Sure.
Grab the bonfire ascetic as your first item, and then kindle it, and then the place where you got a small, smooth, and silky stone actually becomes 3 regular smooth and silky stones.
Oh, so it gets you more chances.
You get 3 chances at a better rate than 1 chance at a really low rate.
Oh.
So it took me twice. I did it in two runs. So
for Whipfest.
Yep, for Whipfest.
Yep.
Now on YouTube. Whipfest.
Whipfest. Yeah. But Macduff is I can't figure out if it's an animation error or if it is a intentionally just showing him having lost his mind that he hammers the thin air in front of him.
I bet you it's not an animation error.
Okay.
I bet you it's just him going through these muscle memories because he's really like there's not too much to him.
Yeah, he's pretty far gone.
Yeah, he's just a nut.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely took that as like being on purpose as well.
Yeah. What do you guys think of the new upgrade path? Like the way that they handle infusions as opposed to picking up specific embers?
To be honest, I didn't even mess around with it much on my first playthrough. So I've always been, and this is partially because when I played Demon's Souls, I actually did magic focused. I've always been slightly mystified and terrified of the crafting in Dark Souls because it's deep, it's scary. There's a lot of stuff you can do. And I inevitably am going to end up screwing up my weapon somehow. So this was actually Dark Souls 2 was the first Souls game where I got really into the crafting, but I never really got to the point. And part of it is I don't think I found an ember until very late in the game. Like, because where does the first ember show up? Is it
I think it's just
in the iron
one.
Yeah, there's just one. And it's in the Iron Keep.
Yeah, so that is the one I found. That's correct. And Iron Keep was the last path that I went down. So I think at that point I was already like so far onto the like I'm just going again playing this for review. I was like I'm head first going straight forward to the end game that I just ended up not even really messing with it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's much friendlier. Like if this is your first, if this is your first time really jumping into it, Dark Souls 1 kind of obfuscated it a lot.
On the so I mentioned before we went on the air, I'm doing a playthrough on PC right now that I'm streaming. I'm planning to get much more into it in that playthrough.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's definitely the sense that I've gotten from what I've read about it thus far. Is it seems a little bit more approachable, let's say.
Yeah, well, it separates like your +1, +2, +3 from the actual from the elemental modifier. So you can upgrade to a +10 weapon and then kind of change out the element on top of it, or like what you want it to scale by.
Yeah, they kind of brought back that Demon Souls bit of having the weirdo items.
Yeah,
like having like a bleed weapon or a poison weapon, or a mundane, which I didn't figure out until very, very recently. That's a weird upgrade path.
Is that the quality analog, or
it scales with your lowest stat, and you build around having all your stats equal. So then it scales. It's like descaling with 10 stats, and it ends up being really powerful.
It's interesting.
Yeah, it's a weird, it's so specific.
Yeah. So that's Macduff. He won't be useful until you come back much later. And you can kind of leave from there. You have that bonfire is kind of handy, except you're surrounded by dogs.
Yeah, it's only handy if you're going right to Macduff.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
But you go up to a parapet, and it's really just a long walk of jailers and swordsmen and such.
Yep. And end up at a tower with Lucatiel. Mm-hmm. So kind of canonically, this is the second time we run into her and get a little bit more of her story. I think we'll probably sum her up a little bit more. A little bit later. Yeah. We have her full story.
Yeah.
But she is opening up to you a bit here.
Yeah. Like every time you see her, she gives you like a little item and just kind of is less like, oh, I'm a loner dotty, a rebel.
Right.
And she, it's weird because she shows up here, but you can't summon her until Sinner's Rise, right?
In the worst summon location in the game.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. Yep, they're the most frustrating summon to try to keep alive. I actually learned something about that too. In order to complete her quest, if you want to do it that way, you can kind of cheese it with bonfire ascetics as well, and just have her help you with the Fluxile 3 times, and that'll do it too.
Oh,
yeah, I'd heard that as well.
Yeah, so it's kind of cheating, but it's kind of a bullshit system anyway. Like it's so hard to keep her alive. Yeah. So.
But you find her there, and this is kind of the intersection point between the two paths. Like the two pathways in. So why don't we take a moment to discuss what happens if you come in from the other side?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the tower apart.
Yes, which is an awesome name.
Yeah.
I love some of those like DVD chapter names. Some of those places. Yeah. But it gives you good access to 2 really useful items. You get the covetous silver serpent ring over here if you do a little bit of parkour. There are a lot of instances in Dark Souls 2, even more so than Dark Souls 1, where if you kind of have a little bit of proficiency over the way things, over the way your movement goes, you feel a little bit like it's an Assassin's Creed game, except an incredibly, clunky controlling one, like not intended to, but if you break it and if you get into that flow, you're kind of impressed by like, oh, did I actually do that?
You can definitely pull off some stuff.
Yeah.
Like that definitely feels that way.
The aforementioned drop onto the jailers. Yeah.
My problem is like I do feel great when I pull that stuff off, but 90% of the time I just screw it up and like fall into a pit and die. Mm-hmm. Even now, even having played, whatever 80 hours of it or 100 hours of it, it's just I can't get it. It's like, oh, I'm gonna do this jump, I'm gonna do this. Nope, I rolled off.
Oh well, and that's more of a problem on this side of the Bastille because it suffered more damage too. Like the footing is a lot less sure, up to and including a gaping hole by these 2 items, and also the door to nowhere is a little bit later. Fuck.
Yeah, I love that weirdo shortcut. Like you realize that's a shortcut, right?
What?
That's a way to get in.
It's a shortcut.
The back.
I just discovered this.
Yeah.
Literally, like last week when I was streaming, one of my stream guests pointed it out, and I was blown away. And then I managed to use it correctly once and realized that they weren't lying.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Or I was gonna say, yeah, it's really counterintuitive and risky, but you run from behind it, and you just run off the ledge and just land where that door is if you opened it first.
Wait a minute, run from behind it.
Yeah, there's like a little offshoot of the path that is full of undead jailers and dogs that after McDuff's.
Yeah.
You can kind of go to your right, and there's just an item and a dog there. But if you look, for one thing, it's kind of a sniper spot where you can take out some of the soldiers.
Yeah, there's a soldier like waiting back there. It's a soldier or a dog, right? Yeah.
Yeah, there's a dog there, but you can see a soldier in this room with the ambush. But yeah, also if you run off that ledge, if you don't jump, just run forward, you will land in that little door. And it's kind of if you haven't done the tower apart, it's kind of a shortcut for the boss run from McDuff's.
Right. So it's basically the Last Crusade.
Yeah. Yep.
I don't know if I'd have I'll probably go do it after we get off here tonight, but
it is weird. Like the utility of it is weird. Like because it feels really risky, and you land right in the middle of Royal Soldier Town, USA.
Yeah, but it puts you like right within spitting distance of the ladder up.
Yeah.
So that makes the lower floor of that building make a lot more sense to me now.
Yeah.
Huh. And they say this game doesn't have shortcuts.
Yeah. It's got 2. That's got more than that. But hey, yeah. I just thought of something. Have either of you guys managed to get that when you're coming up from McDuff's on the left wall? There's an item up there. Do either of you guys know what that is, or how to even begin to get up there?
Are you talking about the crazy little railway parkour that you have to do to get up to the top of Lucatiel's tower?
No, it's way before that. If you're coming from McDuff's, it's on the wall to your left. Like if you're walking up those stairs, there's a wall to your left, and there's a corpse up there with an item.
No, I have no. I don't think I've even seen it.
Yeah, like next time you're there, look up and then see if you can. If anyone's listening and knows how to get there, please write in, because I have no clue.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I'm not sure.
Yeah. But yeah, I haven't got there. Maybe if you get blown up in that little death room, it sends you bodily that way. I have no idea. But yeah, you get that antiquated key, and it lets you get into that church from back, way back up before. I'm not sure how you would approach it if you just strictly came from this side. But you guys want to head over there for a second?
Yeah.
Yeah,
sure. It's gonna be a goofy approach, but let's take it.
Let's take it. So you'll remember back about the 12-minute mark of this podcast, we mentioned the little broken planks that you could go into, and there's that locked door with the door to nowhere. Not the door to nowhere. That was from what we just talked about. No, but you can unlock that and get into kind of this nice little church front playground area with a well and
Yeah, the well that is to trick you. Like if you found the Estus shard in Majula, you do the same thing, and instead it's just a bunch of dudes jumping you.
I forget. Are these the swordsmen, or are these the explodey dudes?
They're the exploding mummies. There's a game of skeleton tornadoes and exploding mummies. So,
did these get you guys, Phil? The exploding mummies are the worst thing in the world. That they recur later in the game. Mm-hmm. They come back in other areas and never failed to cause me problems.
Well, they're in different flavors too. So these ones are right, petrify, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is the worst flavor. I guess actually the corroding your equipment is my least annoying.
That's the worst flavor. Yeah, that's awful.
Fortunately, I ran that area so many times I just remembered where they all were.
Yeah.
Yeah. But here they come out of the scenery quite literally. Man, and they do that jump at you, and it's like such a blast radius. I think that it might be the furthest you get knocked, actually.
It's very similar to the baseball swing of the Turtle Knights. They'll do a similar thing.
Yeah. You just go ragdoll.
This is a cool area to run into them, but I love when you run into them in the winery that we're going to end up later because of all the destructible environments with them. Like when they run and dive and knock you back while also knock you through a bunch of barrels. It's something that Dark Souls doesn't really do.
No.
There's more of that kind of destructible crates and stuff around where enemies are in this game, and it looks really neat. Like when it works, you get some really, really cool kind of spur of the moment set piece stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, this I was real frustrated because I love the Wanderer set. I feel like that has a really good stats per weight. And in my first playthrough, these guys caught me by surprise, and I couldn't get them to come back, so I lost that set forever.
Yep, and it's a good set if you're going light.
Yeah, womp womp. But you get into this church, and you get what I initially thought was one of the worst Pharos locations, but might be the best if you're trying to sequence break.
Yeah, the weird thing, the Ruin Sentinels are optional, which is odd because it doesn't seem like they are, but this is how you do it.
Yeah. I actually had no idea about this until just now.
Yeah. It's neat. And there's also, like, I feel like there's something lore going on. There's something a bit Prem about this area, and I don't know what it is. Basically because of the statues in this room.
Yeah, they're like holding a sword, and it looks like they're bundling something.
Yeah.
I didn't have the binoculars when I was playing this area, so I couldn't get a look at their faces, and it might be too dark to see the face as well.
What if you got out the binoculars and looked at them and they were Kole's face? Like there. Like that's how they put you in the game as a secret tribute. You never know.
Feel like a badass.
Yep.
I must have told this story before, but you remember Metal Gear Solid 2? How way at the beginning you input your name, and then nothing happens with that for a good long while, and you forget that you input your name. And in the final CGI cutscene, or the final like in-engine cutscene, Raiden pulls out his dog tag and it reveals his real name, and it's whatever you put in at the beginning. I thought that they put my name in the game. I was like, wait a minute, why would they put... That's a weird spelling. Why is his name my name? I was like... And granted, at this time, I was 14.
Yeah. I think the last time you told that story, too, I'm not saying it just to one-up you, but with my name and doing the Vault 108 in Fallout 3.
Oh, yeah.
It was really fun when I'm going through the vault and all of a sudden just people from everywhere are whispering my name, and also a fairly unusual name. So,
yeah, oh man, kind of messes with you. So if you have a Kinect, it maps your face, and then it puts it in. It's kind of like in Tiger Woods Golf, where you can put your own face or balls on a golfer.
Yeah, they don't have Kinects, Cole.
Nobody has Kinects.
Yeah.
Microsoft took them away from you. Nobody will ever have a Kinect now.
Yeah, but the Lockstone is cool. You get a bunch of items here, none of which I've used. I want to play with the Twin Blade. They look cool, but I've never kind of done a build for them.
Neither have I. They seem really specialized, as do all the items that you find here. But does Twin Blade come with built-in power stancing?
Not built in. It has a different move set when you're two-handing it.
Okay.
So it's more about that. Like, I think you can power stance it if you hold two of them one-handed, but I think they just act like short swords then, and that's ridiculous.
Yeah, then you just come across like somebody from the Star Wars extended universe,
like Double Worf. It hits a bunch. So I guess they're supposed to be really good if you poison them, because each attack hits multiple times
and does the build up.
Yep.
Yeah. So I can't think of a lore reason why any of this would be here. Maybe they confiscate everything. It's like the skateboard room at the police station.
You just know they're using my Twin Blade 2 seconds later, stupid jailers.
Oh, they already have those pole arms. Yeah.
Yeah, not twin pole arms.
Yeah. But yeah, you get to... Oh, man, twin pole arms. to the blueprintery. Yeah. But you also get a soul vessel here if you use this, which... it's probably the second one you've gotten, unless they patch it, and items get itemy. What?
Yeah, it's still they get itemy itemy.
Yes.
No, it's still there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
So let's continue back.
Yeah. Okay. Back to the critical path. If you end up not using this to skip the ruins sentinels, you'll walk into a nest of these swordsman guys. Which this was a wall for me for a while. Because I was playing with a caster, and there's just you don't have any access to AoE.
Yeah.
Until much later. And it sounds like you had the same situation, Phil.
Yeah, no, I mean, I wasn't playing as a caster, but I absolutely had trouble with this area, and with just the we talked about earlier about how the Lost Bastille in general puts you against a lot. I think this is something Dark Souls 2 more than Dark Souls 1 in general does. There's a lot of encounters against large groups of enemies instead of a lot more areas where you have to figure out. Instead of just figuring out how do I take on this one guy, it's how do I take on these 4 guys. So just the sheer number that you're up against here. And it took me a while to figure out how, like, the best way to, like, slowly pull small groups of them.
But even then, like, you take one step into this room and, like, you walk back out and there are, like, 4 or 5 on your tail. It's almost absurd.
I had some luck opening the door, letting one out, and closing the door, which is a very funny tactic in a real life. Like, if you were actually fighting. And if you can even swing it by 1 or 2, it makes a big difference. Like, I was only able to trick 2 of them into coming out, but with the one I had killed from behind, from that shortcut path.
Doors just keep honest hollows honest.
Yeah.
Yeah. But this is one of the areas. So I had a shitload of trouble with the ruined sentinels. So I perfected the run to drop down into the bottom floor and then climb up the ladder. Because going the way with the door would just be hell. But you can kind of climb through all this and get up to that long hallway with the fog gate.
It's tricky though, because if you do that, then you can't stop and summon anyone. So doing the run up is kind of resigning yourself to fighting alone.
I never found that to be the case. Actually, I never had any of them climb up the ladder.
The ones from the room would always come to me. Or the one from the hallway, rather.
Yeah, I never had that.
Oh,
yeah. They would just stand and blissfully look the other way, and by the time I summoned, Pilgrim Belfry or whoever, she would just go and take them out because she had the magic.
Yep, she's got the magic stick.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Ruin Sentinels.
Man, oh man. So, again, from all sides, and like Phil said, they're doing that much more in this. Like, in Dark Souls 1, there was just kind of the gargoyles, and that was it, where you had more than one thing to deal with. Oh, and Ornstein and Smo. But this time, well, why not? We're not going to hit you with 2. We're going to hit you with 3, like, right out the gate.
Well, kind of not right out the gate, which is kind of, it can be if you the first time, like, I was like, I need more room to move around. I'm going to jump off this thing. And that's exactly the wrong thing to do. But if you can stay up there, you end up fighting 2 at a time, but it's still, like, super tough.
Yeah.
Also be noted how good the music is for these guys. It's one of my favorite music tracks.
Yeah.
I've been told, and I was not able to confirm this, a big turning point for me in this fight was just that initial realization of, like, well, I can take out the first one up here, and I at least get rid of that one, and then I can drop down and do the other 2. But I've been told by somebody that if you stay up there, because then one of them comes over and jumps up there, but that you can fight them one by one.
The third one will jump up.
So that's what I thought, but
yeah,
somebody was telling me that it was one by one. I don't know.
It's totally possible it happened, in their experience, like the AI did something different, or something like that. I've always had the third one jump up. But
yeah, and the big thing for me too is I didn't find the NPC summon for this, and I think that NPC summon helps a lot in this fight.
Oh, definitely.
Oh, yeah.
She's a little bit less helpful if you are a caster,
sure,
which was my experience the first time around. But she is an excellent distraction if you are any kind of melee character.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and my experience trying to keep them apart, I would try and get the first one down as low as possible. However, it would always fall off, and I would have to go down to finish it off.
If you wait, it'll jump back up.
Mm-hmm. I guess I always got impatient. I didn't want them to. I didn't know if there was going to there are 3. Why not 6? Why not 7?
I love the glimpse when I was first fighting the first one, which is not like he's tough, but he does a lot of stamina damage to your shield. But I love fighting him, and then when I saw the other one out of the corner of my eye in the back, like I saw the 3 health bars, so I knew there were 3. But then watching the other ones just watch from the kind of ledges, the initial fight was really cool. Like that was a great moment.
Yeah. Yeah, they have names too, which is really bizarre. Like they don't show up as the Ruin Sentinels. They are Yahim, Alessia, and Ricci.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yep. And it's not like these are the only ones in the game either.
No,
we're going to run into dozens more.
Yeah.
And they don't get names.
I love the design on these guys too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, like this spindly, like way too, like it doesn't look like their legs should be able to support them. And in fact, they aren't bodies; they're just armor that are possessed by souls.
And one of the coolest touches too, like I realized that, or if you kind of know this in retrospect, if you hit them with a blunt weapon, they make a hollow sound.
Yeah,
like speedrunners use maces when they're doing the actual speedrun, not the all bosses one, and it makes this like chunk 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 when your power stance in clubs. That's like really satisfying and sounds like hitting drums. So,
oh man, you can make a slave ship go real fast.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Huh. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I'm pretty proud. I wish I was streaming at the time. I stopped doing my streams because I get performance anxiety, and I do real shitty.
Sure.
So when I'm not streaming, I can be competent. When I am streaming and the world is watching, I eat crap. However, I got this in one shot, which was a marked improvement compared to kind of my first go around. And, continuing to underline for me how much more viable melee is than casting in this particular iteration here.
Yeah, or at least at this point in the game.
True.
Like, casting becomes ridiculous, but it's not quite there yet.
If you take hexes, for sure.
Oh, yeah. Hexes for the win. Boy, so somebody shoot me. Hexes for the win. I meant, yeah, whoops. Wow. What did I do?
Oh, boy.
Oh, Phil, I'm sorry.
That's grim.
We've never met before today, and that's like 10% of what you know about me. Me saying that. Total accident.
Oh.
Listen, I've got to go.
Boop.
Well, fuck. Show's over, guys. All right, Kole and Phil, you guys can do the rest of the season.
We'll see you next week.
I'm going to go commit pod seppuku.
Ugh, for the win.
I'm so sorry. I don't even know what happened. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, Patreon's going to plummet. Like,
wait a minute, people are donating negative? I don't understand.
Yeah, I have to give them money now.
Oh, that is funny. But yeah, these guys are great. I don't know. I felt pretty good having taken them down on one, but still it was a very conservative fight.
Yeah. It takes a long time. It's a tough fight. I love that helicopter move. Like, that is so funny and goofy and really cool, and looks like a hammer throw from the Olympics.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And I love the shield throw because you have a really good chance of not seeing it. It doesn't happen very often.
Yeah, and it sticks in the wall too. Like after they die, it'll just be wah wah wah.
It's very cool.
Vibrating, stuck into the wall. This episode is brought to you by Abject Suffering. It is another show we do on this network, and it is nominally about bad games.
Or good games. Or
good games that are considered to be bad.
Yeah, games are considered to be bad, or really just games that people suggest.
Yeah.
And they're suggesting them in the way that, like, people in an improv audience are like, Starbucks in San Francisco. Pequod's mom.
Kumquat.
Yeah, Kumquat. Queequeg's dog. Like people are doing that. It's not really about anything.
No.
So.
Oh, but it is consistently one of the most fun things we record.
Yeah, it's super fun. We like it. And because of people at Patreon, at our Patreon, patreon.com/Duckfeed.tv, we're able to take the show weekly.
Yeah.
So there's never been a better time than to go back and listen to the Michael Jordan Chaos in the Windy City episode and then stay current with it.
Because that's all you need to listen to before now.
That primes you.
It tells you everything you need to know.
Yeah, we got all the backstory out.
Yeah, I thought the Barney Harvest episode, honestly.
That is a good episode. Yeah. Like I like almost every episode of that show. I think that's very good. And you'll never know which ones I don't like unless you listen, and then you can guess. Send us a message and see if you can guess which one is the ones I don't like. Hint: I don't remember.
So that's two things. That is Duckfeed.tv /Abject Suffering to hear us talk about whatever we want.
And our Patreon at patreon.com/DuckFeed.tv.
And you have kind of the run of this big area. I didn't realize. So the door by the ladder that's kind of like busted in, that you can't go through. You see the other side of that door here. Mm-hmm. Again, anytime we can call in where the geometry interconnects is pretty cool. But you can kind of head up. There's a secret room with Hush there.
There are 5 secret rooms.
Wait, what? 5?
It's the greatest concentration of secret rooms in any Souls game.
It's ridiculous. I also didn't realize this until I was streaming it, and this is another thing that somebody I was streaming with mentioned it, and I was like, "Are you serious?" And then went around and basically was just hitting the wall across the whole thing to find all of them.
Mm-hmm. In your Souls adventures, Phil, did you ever play the Kingsfield games at all?
I have played a little bit.
Okay, yeah.
Just a teensy bit.
It feels so Kingsfieldy. Just like I wouldn't have gone up. There's just one spot where they're like, oh, there might be a hidden wall here, and I guess people hadn't been soapstoning, so it wasn't like, hey, press X here. But 5. Like, do you get anything good aside from Hush?
No, it's not that worth it. Like, yeah, you get some stuff. You get Hush. You get.
I want to say one of them is even empty.
Yeah. One of them is definitely an empty room.
Really?
What's interesting too is that the Ruin Sentinels can actually smash a chest from outside the secret room.
Oh,
no!
Like I opened one and there was a busted chest with rubbish in it, and I was like, "What the fuck?" And then I went and wasted an aesthetic because I was curious. Mm-hmm. Fought the Ruin Sentinels again, and it's like a target shield.
Great!
Like, oh, great! Yeah, great. Thanks. All right. Gavlin can eat this for 50 souls.
Oh. Yeah. You make this awesome ascent up through a bunch of these ruptured hollows, the bomb guys. Again, incredibly high concentration of this one particular kind of enemy that, for me, like before I learned to be really cautious around them, led to like one of them knocking me into the other until I died.
Mm.
Yeah, but this is where that awesome wine cellar kind of area is.
I love the sound these things make. Like knocking sound. It's like the Dark Souls 2 equivalent of the sound the basilisks made.
Mm.
Sure.
Like,
oh, those things are around.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And eventually you work your way all the way up and you find Strayed, who is fantastic. He is one of the most lore-rich and dense kind of NPCs.
Yeah, Strayed's pretty cool.
Yeah.
You have to have a fragrant branch of yore to unlock him, which you probably don't have.
No,
at this point.
Where do you get the first one? I know you get a couple, but
you can get one in the Black Gulch. You get one for killing the Lost Sinner. So that's kind of the first one I think that I ran into.
Yeah, that's the first one I got for sure.
Yeah,
and then 2 in Harvest Valley.
Okay,
so I think those are the ones you can get.
Yeah, so. You can use it here, or you can use it to open up the Shaded Woods, but it really just depends on, do you want to see more game, or do you want to have somebody insult you for not being intelligent enough?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And even if you are intelligent...
Oh, yeah.
Like you go up to this guy and talk to him with 50 intelligence, and like, you ignoramus. Like,
I need souls, you fool, souls!
What are you talking about? I'm so smart. I'm 50 worth of smart.
Yeah, I'm 50 smart.
I'm 50 smart 50. And 15 decks. What are you talking about?
Yeah. But this is, again, talking about kingdoms on top of kingdoms. Saying, Drain Lake, I've never heard this name. Is that what they're calling this place now?
Yeah. He does the Dark Souls sinister laugh.
Yeah.
Pretty consistently.
Yeah.
And he's really kind of ties into the whole idea. You're learning it from multiple NPCs that kingdoms keep rising and falling, and that's thematically, so important to this game. This idea of the cycle and the circle, and with the ember, which we talked about a little bit earlier. It is a fading ember. Maybe that's actually its natural state. Mm-hmm. Things keep going back to this, kind of spot of chaos in between different ages. Mm-hmm. It's always going to end up back here at this kind of point for drama.
Yeah. Or you're always going to play the game at this point in the fall.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Pretty much.
The autumn of kingdoms.
Yeah. Yeah, but he also makes specific reference to pyromancy and the ancient witch of fire.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so one of the first, I think, outside of Sweet Shakwar, the only real reference to kind of the old pantheon that you're going to get.
It's one of the first ones for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
So let me ask you guys this, and I apologize if this has come up in previous episodes, but this is something that I've been talking about as I stream my playthrough on PC, and as a lot of my friends who I'm streaming with finish the game, and we're trying to work through the lore and what's going on, because it's all so subtle and you kind of have to really dig for it in this game. Are you guys definitely of the mind that this is like, in terms of chronology, a sequel to the first Dark Souls, that this is like Drangleic is a kingdom that is on the, essentially built on the ashes of where Dark Souls 1 took place?
That's a complicated question. I think Gary, tell me if I'm wrong, but I think that where we come down is that this is a neighboring kingdom.
Sure.
Yeah, and like the similarities can be ascribed to the fact that kind of cultures tend to bleed over, especially when it's incredibly likely that Guinevere came here after Dark Souls 1, or before Dark Souls 1 rather. Potentially this might have been one of the places. I don't see an awful lot of support for this being the literal place, and also this could potentially be more than one kingdom that we're going to.
Sure.
Yeah.
The one thing that keeps popping up that we kept coming back to is in terms of it being the actual, like, the same area or the same people, is the flame tower and the enemies you fight, who are God, now I'm going to forget their names. The two knight dudes.
Oh, Ornstein?
Ornstein's Straw. Yeah. Just it's something that I've had a lot of people bring up to me as the core of that argument of this is actually the same place. Look, these are the same, literally the same people. They're here for some reason.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we talked about that a little bit in the last, or the two sets of episodes ago, where kind of our working theory is that in I guess this is spoilers for Dark Souls 1, but those are all on the table.
Yeah.
That when you fight Ornstein and Smo, that's before you can ever reveal any of the illusions of Anor Londo. Mm-hmm. And I think that our kind of working theory is that this is the real Ornstein that you fight here. He's kind of ancient and had gone over with Guinevere. And the Ornstein and Smo that you fight in Dark Souls 1 are an illusion.
Interesting.
Yeah. I think it's a neighboring kingdom, too. I think we're definitely visiting multiple kingdoms, not least of which I think that's kind of inarguable with that map. So maybe part of Dark Souls 2 is actually on the ruins of where Lordran is, but I don't think the whole thing is Lordran in general. You're traverse huge space.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And you one of the things I mentioned earlier about the evidence that you're getting of different kingdoms dealing with the undead threat differently, specifically with this area, and then the area we're going to talk about next with the Huntsman's Copse. That suggests very different cultures.
Sure.
To me,
Yeah, the reason I bring it up, of course, is because we're talking about Straight, and you say that he specifically says, that he specifically brings up that he knew the kingdom under a previous name other than Drangleic, and to me that's such a salient piece of information, such an important loaded thing for him to say. Why? To me, it's definitely supposed to give you a suggestion of wait, so this used to have different names. I knew about this kingdom named something else, where a lot of the same things were going on. Is that the same kingdom?
And my sense is that they're definitely intentionally tantalizing us.
Sure, absolutely.
Oh, definitely.
And I just, this is one of the things I love about the storytelling in Dark Souls 2 is I think it's something where we're what are we at? We're at 2.5 months since the game originally came out, 3 months, and I don't think in the community, in the greater Dark Souls community, I don't think that there is a I'm sure there are a lot of people arguing one way or another, but I don't think there's a certain answer.
Yeah.
And it's something that I think people, as we continue uncovering stuff, and fingers crossed as they release new content, that we're going to be able to keep wrestling with.
Yeah. I think that there exists many number of like factions and like headcanons, for lack of a less obnoxious. God, why did I say that? Well, now it's you two hosting the show,
or just Phil. It's just Phil.
Phil.
Like I said, for the win, you used the TV tropes term. Phil, it's the monologue from now on.
I think it's a Tumblr thing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Gosh.
Yes.
Yeah. What's worse?
Let's get the ideology right here, okay? But I think that there are lots of interpretations. The most bitter divide is it Lord Drain or is it not? But I think in terms of the style of storytelling that they're engaging under, like what I think is the most valuable takeaway is because all of this is about a cycle. Just the idea that the same things keep popping up, and even into like New Game Plus, where you start to see kind of how these forces are influencing things in really direct ways to kind of like make the same things happen over and over again. Like, I don't know how much the specifics matter to me in general.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I think when you get down to the theme of what the game's plot is about, I think you're right. I think you're dead on. I think the arguments over whether or not it's literally the same geographic space, I find them interesting and they're fun, as somebody who's played the previous game, but it's definitely not the point. It doesn't really matter in the end whether or not they're the same geographic space. What matters is in this world as a whole, there is this cycle, as you said, that these things are happening, whether it's in the same spot or not. These same events are happening in the same way.
For sure. It's not even, and it's not like for me, sorry to cut you off, Cole. Like it's not a requirement necessarily to figure out the nuts and bolts. Like you can kind of get a feeling in a thematic sense, and not settle on something. Like it took pretty much the whole season of doing the show for me to figure out what I definitely thought of Dark Souls 1 as far as, what happened in the interpretation. And I fully expect that to happen here. Like I would much rather have kind of a fluid, impressionistic understanding than a concrete chronology of it.
And not to, because we're already doing a podcast based on it, so clearly we all like Dark Souls a lot. Not to talk about how incredible Dark Souls is too much, but that's just something I love about this series. I love that so there are so few games where I feel like they support that kind of depth of thinking about the narrative.
Yeah. Yep, I love a game that I can just passively chew on throughout my day. It's like video game narrative jerky almost.
Yeah, gum.
Yeah, it's gum.
Yeah, it's just some gum.
Yeah. Dark Souls double. It's weird how like they're almost weaponizing nostalgia here, like in a way that Nintendo could really only hope to do. They're actually like building nostalgia into the theme of the game and hitting you with overt and subtle things that drag that up.
Yeah, it makes it something so like, let's say when I wrote my original review of Dark Souls 2, we did a video review alongside it, and there were some just like 5-second flashes of the fight with Ornstein, and a 5-second flash of the gargoyle thing that we might be talking about in a minute. And somebody in the comments brought up, they're like, oh, man, I'm really bummed to see that they're just reusing the same bosses. And it was like, I didn't really know how to explain it to them without spoiling anything, but I was like, all I can say is like, I don't feel like it's just them reusing assets because they're lazy. It's such a key part of the game and like the message. And it's like, it makes it so that when they have something that comes up, like in the next Souls game, when something comes up that reminds you of Dark Souls 3, it's coming up for a reason. There's a meaning behind it other than just them saying like, hey, remember this cool thing? We did it again. There's something more to it.
Ornstein's back in Pog form.
Yeah, well, and then we get some Ornstein. The one thing I totally agree with you, and it's not arbitrary, and every time it happens, it actually works. The one thing, and we're going to talk about it in a few episodes, but like the inclusion of the Heirs of Sunlight Covenant,
sure,
felt like a little bit like, hey, kids, here's the internet for you in Dark Souls form. Like,
although I will say I kind of like the fact that. Not to, again, I know you guys will get to this much later, but I like the fact that whole covenant is so easy to miss, it's not, like if they really wanted to appeal to the people who just like got in on the Dark Souls bandwagon when it was getting popular, like it would have been the first covenant you get in the first town.
Yeah.
Instead, they made it like it's on a little side path. It's super easy to miss. It's just a broken ass busted statue in a cave in the middle of nowhere, and
next
it's
to
really
a poison pit.
Yeah, and to me, it really drives home. Again, it's a connection to Dark Souls 1 in the sense of like if you want to think of it chronologically, like oh man, like what the fuck happened? Like where where are these this force that used to be a major force to be reckoned with in that world?
Yeah.
And yeah, it's just it for me, it just painted a further picture of like how much time has passed since the events of Dark Souls 1 and like how messed up the world is.
Yeah.
The in Dark Souls 3, your hub area will be New Solaire City.
Great. Perfect.
Just, it's all just full of people, praise the sun to you, good morrow.
I want it to be like a Phantasy Star, like a MMO Light, where that hub zone is actually populated with other players, and it's just everybody. It's just dozens of players just doing the praise the sun emote over and over again.
Over and over. It's sad, but I would play a Dark Souls MMO. I'd play the fuck out of a Dark Souls MMO.
Yeah.
Like I do not like MMOs. Like
New Solaire City, where you have to be jolly or you'll be wished into the cornfield.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh man.
Okay, I apologize for that.
No,
that is exactly the kind of stuff we trade in.
that is the
We can
show.
continue going.
Yeah. But to wrap up with Straight, I'm going to give a lengthy monologue here. But he says, many kingdoms rose and fell on this tract of earth. Mine was by no means the first. Anything that has beginning also has an end. No flame, however brilliant, does not one day sputter and fade. But then, from the ashes, flame reignites, and a new kingdom is born, sporting a new face. It is all a curse, and it is your curse, your cursed flesh that will inherit the flame. Like that is, again, a pretty potent thesis statement for this entire endeavor, right?
Yeah.
So I would feel remiss if I didn't bring that. Good.
Your boss merchant, the first boss merchant you technically run into, which and speaking of the Ruin Sentinels, just for completion's sake, you get a great homing soul arrow, which I've never used.
It's any of the homing ones. I never found that much of a use for, honestly. Like it was like great heavy soul arrow and eventually soul spear or bust.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, in terms of like straight non-hex damage casting. But yeah, I wish I could get that long hammer. That would be pretty fun to have.
That would
to
be
have
cool.
a hammer
I was
with
really
reach.
surprised.
Yeah. To do like a two-handed R2 that is the hammer throw kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do cosplay. Do demon visions.
Yeah.
We're just gonna be awful since we're in for a penny, in for a pound. Yeah, I would use it for my cosplay, my Ruin Sentinels cosplay.
My cosplay.
So let's take a side trek to the Belfry Luna, which you get to through using a Pharaoh's Lockstone in the servants' quarters, and it's a really good thing to do. Like going and fighting this boss and getting the item you ultimately get is very good. And before you move on to Sinner's Rise.
Real quick, the servants' quarters looks like the servants' quarters for Manor Londo. Am I wrong?
Servants' quarters for Manor Londo.
Yeah, where you have Solaire sitting there saying, "If I didn't think about it, you're hitting on me."
Oh, kinda.
I
don't know if it looks. I mean, it's got furniture in it. It's got furniture and boxes.
That is my requirement for a room to look alike. I have the I have the room equivalent of prosopagnesia. I'm room blind.
Kole was designed in Unity, so he's only got a limited number of assets to work with. Yeah,
but I make the most of them. Damn it.
Yep, that's right.
Yeah, but down to Belfry.
Belfry Luna, which is a lore area. Dave Klein, who's going to be on the show, does YouTube lore videos and did a very good video about the two towers, or these two the two belfries. And kind of talked about the lore implications of this prince and princess, because that was definitely a big mystery. Like, I don't really know what's going on with that.
Neither do I.
I'll put it in the show notes, and I really recommend everybody watch it because it's a really good kind of theory.
Yeah.
Of it.
Can you give a summary?
I'd love to see that.
It's essentially, so without getting too much into later areas, this is the princess's tower with the bell made by the prince. As to why it's here, most of the lore actually comes from Belfry Soul. and the prince there kind of being involved with the Iron King and Queen Mytha, who had like an unrequited love, and she was trying to make herself more beautiful by drinking poison, as you do.
I mean, Botox.
Yeah, I guess that's true. It's some kind of like cleanse. She's doing the poison cleanse while her husband goes to Burning Man. Yeah, but yeah, it's very convoluted. There's charts in the YouTube video, so but it all holds together pretty well. It was pretty impressive. So definitely check that out.
Does it explain why you have JF Sebastian's little robot friends?
They look exactly like those.
Home again, jiggity jig.
Yeah, they look exactly like those things. They're autonomous. Like they say you can get their armor, and they say what they are. They're like these just puppets that were made by the prince and princess. And there is kind of theming going on with animating inanimate objects and golems and stuff.
Yeah,
and how
absolutely.
that ties in, I don't know exactly.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely other enemies that show up later in the game that are the same.
Yeah.
Yeah, which made tons of sense to me since I thought the royal swordsmen were robots at first, or like automaton. And I thought this whole, and those the jailers had the bandages over their face. I was like, oh, weird. Am I in like a clockwork? Dark Souls, Clockwork Souls.
It's weird that you immediately go to Clockwork with the bandages. I would have gone for, oh my god, it's a bunch of invisible men.
Yeah, they've all been to Burning Man.
What I like about this whole steampunk Dark Souls theory is that the rumored Beast Souls, is that what the rumor, or just Beast something?
Project Beast right
Project
now?
Beast.
Yeah.
I've seen some people call it Beast Souls, so I'm just going to call it that.
Yeah.
That looks hell of steampunk. That totally looks like their the Dark Souls team take on steampunk. So your misperceptions might be coming true. That might be the real future of From Software.
Yeah, I'm like a 80s Twilight Zone TV episode.
Yeah.
Where the things I don't think are actually true actually come true. Yeah. I would, and again, the same way I'd play a Dark Souls MMO, I'll play a Dark Souls steampunk.
I mean, they kind of did that in some Kingsfield stuff, right?
Yeah, there's a little bit of that.
Yeah. Yep, I'm not opposed. Yeah, not on principle anyway. It's super creepy how they're just a bunch of decommissioned of these, decommissioned JF Sebastian dolls. Just kind of leaning it against the wall. Yeah. But this is kind of the home to a covenant, one of the more popular covenants actually, and the first kind of non-traditional area-based PvP areas in the game too.
Yeah, it's kind of a direct antecedent from the Forest Covenant in Dark Souls 1. Like, it's the free-for-all place. Like, if you want to fight multiple people at the same time and have no invasion timer, come here.
Yeah. This is also the place where I'm most successful in PvP. Generally, if I get invaded, I'm fucked. However, I probably have the highest KDR, since we're in for a penny and for a pound. I probably have the highest KDR in this area, just being invaded, running through it, than any other area in the game.
Would you do me a favor and write a trashy novel called KDR, where it stands for Kole Death Ratio?
Kole Death, like a pulp, like noir kind of thing.
Yeah. I know my KDR.
It's where I'm investigating a serial killer, but it turns out to be me.
Yeah, you just keep finding yourself dead.
Yeah.
This guy's really racking up a KDR. What I want this place to be, and it never is for people to invade, or people to walk in and try to ring the bell while everyone tries to stop them, and like a Dark Souls version of Capture the Flag.
Yeah, that's what I want too.
Yeah, but it's just for fights.
Yeah, and I don't know what ringing the bell does.
It opens the gargoyle gate.
Does it?
Yeah.
That's what it does here. I don't know what it does in the other tower.
Nothing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Huh.
In the other tower, it does nothing. Here it definitely opens the gate, though.
Yeah.
Because I got stuck here when I was playing it on the PC version. I got stuck here for a little while dealing with people kept invading and killing me before I could ring it.
So.
Yeah, I that happens to me a lot because I haven't done a lot of it PvP here. I've done some for sure, but oftentimes if I'm here, like I just want to go fight those gargoyles, and just keep dying on my way up.
Again, kind of filling out the theme of, from every angle. You're also dealing with these black phantoms, like literally inky black, super creepy versions of these automatons fighting you alongside the gray phantoms. For this covenant, like, what is it? Like, what do you collect to rank up? Is that is it really just how many you defeat, or is there an item around that?
I think it's just victories.
Victories. Okay.
This might have changed. At least initially, this was a good place to get Titanite chunks because you used to get those for winning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You get a Titanite slab for defeating 10 people, but
yeah. So you get some Titanite. I think the ultimate reward is the invisible weapon spell.
Hidden weapon. That's after 30. After 100 trespassers defeated, you get the Bellkeeper's set.
Oh, great!
Yeah,
you're gonna dress like a toy.
Yeah. To this day, the forbidden love of the Prince of Alkin and the Princess of Ven manipulates these marionettes. Surely they never imagined that their dolls would outlast their own kingdoms. Yeah.
And no kid wants to outlive their doll.
Oh man. But yeah, we should probably talk about that gargoyle fight because sweet.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
I really like it. It's very takes I think I said it earlier on. I think I was talking about Dragon Rider and Dragon Rider being kind of an underwhelming boss. Is that so many bosses in Dark Souls 2 feel like they're set up in direct opposition to something that we already know or will know. So you fight Dragon Rider and he's underwhelming, and then later there's a twist on it, and you fight Ornstein and he's underwhelming, but that's in contrast to how much of a nightmare Ornstein Smough was. And this is very much in a it was a real big deal when 2 gargoyles came out. And what if they just keep coming?
Yeah. It was one of the first moments when I was playing the game for review that was just one of those classic fuck you Dark Souls moments, for lack of a better way of putting it, where I'm just playing, and I think my girlfriend was watching me at the time, and she's like, oh, there's 2 of them. And I'm like, oh yeah, of course, they've done this fight in the previous 2 Souls games. Of course, there's going to be 2. I'm like, I can handle this, no big deal. And then a 3rd comes, and then a 4th, and then a 5th, and I'm just like, fuck you! Like, how dare you, game? A lot of people have been, or not a lot of people, I shouldn't say, but I've certainly seen people complain about this fight as one too many of the gargoyle fights, because it's the 3rd time they've done it now. But I love that they just blew it up, that they just went to the extreme most conclusion of people are used to it at this point, so let's just keep throwing more and more at them.
I came across this thought last night when I was playing the game for playing this area for the show, to refresh my memory and take notes and stuff. But again, to reference Metal Gear Solid 2, where areas of that are just a straight up remix, and it kind of pays off in a pretty cool way once you realize it. That feels a little bit like it here, where they take it and they +1 it, or in this case +4 it.
Sure.
And they don't behave exactly like you would expect. If it was just a straight off representation, they would wait, and then each new one would, after you got it to a certain level of health, would step back and do its elemental spell. But in this one, they will support each other, so it's very much a party of gargoyles that you have to really manage in an area that's not much bigger, or might even be smaller than the rooftop from the first one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's smaller, actually.
Yeah, and also the fact that they're standing off to the side and they're alive. So if you are if you're close to the edge, you're already in a bad situation. But if you accidentally hit one, it will aggro you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've never had that happen before. I've never hit one of the statues.
So as it kind of meets or titrates those out to you, you can if you're careless, and if you're not focusing on one and getting rid of that before the next one kind of jumps in a Four Kings-esque fashion, you can really get overwhelmed. So again, from all directions, crowd control. Let's make this happen.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I like the spear that they dropped too, just from a looks kind of thing. The gargoyle's bident.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You see, it's different. They're not reusing it.
Yeah.
It's a Bident now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I've never used it.
Yeah.
But
But yeah, it is even down to the music too. The music is a straight up like recall, and in playing through, I've noticed a couple of times where that happens, where they'll reuse the theme intentionally. So they will drag stuff back in that is meant to remind somebody who's paying attention of of that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And again, I feel like I need to claim these small victories where I get them because I'm bad at these games. But I got this on the first try last night too. So
Nice.
So hooray!
yeah. Yeah, good job. It's a tough fight depending on, your build for sure. If you don't have a good DPS, it's really hard to kind of focus fire because I think the new ones spawn based on damage and then also on a timer.
Yeah.
So, you really do need to be able to whittle one down.
Mm-hmm.
Afterwards, you're kind of stuck in this weird little... Here's a pro tip if you're ever going for the non-bonfire run or no bonfire run. Don't keep going from this point because the only way out is through warping a bonfire. So there's a dead end at the end of this where you do this weird little area to get the Bastille key with an invader, Vorgel the Sinner, which seems like he has to be lore significant, but I have no idea in what way.
I mean, if he's a sinner, this is the place for him, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, but he's not, he's clearly not, the sinner, maybe he owns Sinner's Rise, and it's named after him the same way, Hardee's is named after John Hammond Hardee.
Yeah.
But yeah, it seemed like, I was like, okay, this guy he seems like he should be significant, and he isn't really.
Yeah. He owns a lot of dogs.
Yeah.
He's got some pets.
Yep.
Ugh, so many dogs.
Yep. Vorgel's dog fighting ring down here.
So for people who'd been watching me on the stream, can I pimp my stream? Can I?
Yeah.
Is that allowed?
Yeah, for sure. We definitely have a pimp area, but
Sure.
you can pimp it now for sure.
Well, I'm just going to twitch.tv/stream friends. But the people who watched me play through Lost Bastille on stream got to witness me dying like 6 times in a row to Vorgel the Sinner. It was really depressing, really, really poor showing. I felt pretty bad about it.
In a weird way, his arena reminds me of the Capra area.
Totally.
Except with
Absolutely.
7 different kinds of dogs.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the biggest thing is there's so many dogs plus this really difficult phantom and not a lot of room. There's not a ton of room to maneuver or to just get some bearing. You just kind of have to go for it.
Yeah, so like Capra and kind of a later boss, a later optional boss, it's putting you into a very restricted area with incredibly aggressive enemies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So in closing, Vorgel the Sinner for the win.
Boy.
Oh boy.
Vorgel the Sinner is to Capra.
Yeah.
Ugh.
And then that's really it for these areas. It seems like it would make sense for us to go to Sinner's Rise next. We're not going to because we're unpredictable.
Yeah.
And also because it's a tough boss, and we want to do kind of another early area first.
This is we're calling it quits, and we are hopping on to another spoke.
Yep, the Huntsman's Copes or Cops rather, and we will be joined by Allison Baker of the Lego Dark Souls Tumblr. People who are that's what our Facebook icons all come from, and she's done little videos and stuff like that. It's great.
Yeah, it's the best, most flattering, and coolest fan art I've seen.
Yeah. It's awesome, and she's great. I've talked to her a bunch on Facebook and stuff, and she's super cool person. So it'll be super fun, and also talking about the Undead Purgatory.
Yes,
as well. Phil, where else can people find you other than twitch.tv/streamfriends?
Oh, that's the best place, though. I'm also on Twitter, twitter.com/pkollar. That's PKOLLAR. And I, of course, am writing reviews all of the time for Polygon.com. I'm the deputy reviews editor there, so I'll show up in other places on the site, but primarily I'm going to be writing reviews, and I'm pretty much constantly writing them. So if a week goes by and you don't see something go up by me, check and make sure that I'm all right. Like, I might be wrong.
Oh. Yeah.
And if they want to do that, what's your home address? I'm sorry. I'm just
Sure.
kidding.
Yeah. No.
Yeah.
I might as well.
I was really resigned. I don't know if I like that tone.
Yeah, the reviews might start trickling out.
Listen,
Yeah.
Dark Souls 2 is a bummer of a game. There's some sad stuff going on. Sometimes when I'm thinking about it, I get a little sad. It's all right.
Oh, that's easy.
Oh.
Oh.
There. Yeah. Yeah. No.
Cool.
Yeah. So should we do like just plug fest and then get in, get out?
Yeah.
Yeah. So cool. If you want to find more of our show, it is duckfeed.tv/bonfireside chat. We have a very active Facebook group. Facebook.com/bonfireside chat with lots of people sharing. It's neat because it's a great source for Dark Souls news. I don't go to the Reddit or anything. The fans bring it to me as though they were offerings. And,
anything you can do to avoid going on Reddit is great.
True.
There's good content on Reddit. You just need to find somebody else to curate it for you.
Yeah.
So
I feel so bad because we get a good deal of traffic from Reddit, actually.
Well, I mean, it's I think people who are on Reddit probably understand what I mean.
Yeah.
There is good stuff on there. Mm-hmm. You just have to, there's just what's the quote I keep saying, where it's at a certain point you cease to have bad neighbors and start having a bad neighborhood.
Yeah.
Reddit.com. So
Reddit. Signed Reddit.
Yeah.
Yeah. But if you came here from Reddit, we are very happy to have you.
Yeah, and if Mr. Reddit is listening,
if Jimmy Reddit's,
Jimmy Reddit is listening, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Wait, no, that was quiet enough. I think we're good. I think we're good. No. What am I thinking of here in terms of finance type stuff? Little weird asking, but there's Duckfeed.tv/tipjar. We have that Amazon link, and then we also have our ongoing Patreon campaign, which helps us do cool stuff across the network. Everybody has been coming out in force. It's humbling and heartening to see what's going on there. If you are listening and you haven't done that, check it out. There are some cool rewards, including getting the shows a day early. And we have a special feed set up for that. So if you're thinking, man, my Saturday could use a fresh Bonfireside chat, that happens then. Happens there.
Yeah. And we're doing at the end of the month, we're doing a live stream as well,
yes.
A monthly Q&A live stream. So we'll talk a little bit more about that on the Patreon feed. But if you want to be part of that, check it out.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's probably good.
Just about
for admin stuff.
Cool. Yeah. So it's been great having you, Phil. Been a big fan ever since the 1-up days.
Well, thanks so much. I really appreciate you inviting me, and I'd love to be on any other time. So just keep in touch.
Cool. Yeah, thanks, Phil. Yeah, I really appreciate it as well.
Yeah. So until next time, they should watch out for prisoners.
The wrong show.
Oh.
I
don't even know anymore.
So it's okay. Seek misery.
Seek misery. So the world might be not corrupted by this land like so many before.
Rended.
Umbasa.
The world might be rended.
So the world might be rended.
And we all pray that we will have far more soon.
I should go see that, make sure they're doing okay.
Yeah, go be with their family.
Yeah, I'm going to go out on a limb and say that is important.
Yeah.
So for sure.
It's arguably more important than Dark Souls. I'm not going to say for sure that it is.
They have actual souls. We're just talking about fictional souls.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, but that I can't turn actual souls into rad weapons. So I don't know.
Sounds like a wager to me.